The question on the table is one of sovereignty. Will Canada chart its own independent path or remain locked in Washington's orbit? The United States just begged Canada for something in public, and the entire world is watching the fallout.
Tonight, we're breaking down a stunning and concentrated 48-hour period where the Canadian government executed a series of coordinated moves that sent genuine, measurable shockwaves directly through the Pentagon's highest levels of command. This wasn't an accident. This was a deliberate, calculated demonstration of newfound strength. For generations, the continental dynamic was simple, almost paternalistic. America led, devised strategy, and set terms. Canada followed, acquiesced, and complied. They purchased our military hardware, accepted our trade terms, often without significant pushback, and stayed firmly within our defined sphere of influence. This was the unspoken, yet rigidly enforced rule of the relationship. But this single week, that entire decades-old narrative was decisively flipped on its head. The U.S. ambassador to Canada took to a stage in Ottawa and did something truly unprecedented for American diplomat. He didn't issue firm demands. He didn't engage in confident posturing. He pleaded. He pleaded openly and with a visible, palpable anxiety that was broadcast for all the world to see. What seismic event could possibly cause such a dramatic and humbling reversal of roles? What exactly did Canada do that forced this moment of raw American geopolitical panic onto the public stage? The answer is leverage. For the first time in decades, Canada has real, tangible, and powerful strategic leverage, and they have just proven they are not afraid to use it. In a whirlwind two-day period, the Canadian government executed a masterclass in strategic assertion. They openly and forcefully challenged the foundational financial and industrial terms of the massive F-35 fighter jet agreement. Simultaneously, they gave a serious high-level hearing to a rival offer from Sweden for their advanced Gripen fighter, an offer that includes a jaw-dropping pledge to create over 10,000 high-value jobs right here on Canadian soil. Concurrently, they publicly and formally questioned American tariff policy on the international stage, and as a final stroke, they initiated high-stakes, cabinet-level discussions about forming deeper strategic economic bonds with key Asian partners. This was a full-spectrum demonstration of independent will. The American reaction to this multi-front offensive wasn't just mild concern or diplomatic annoyance. It was pure, undiluted strategic alarm. You could see it in the frantic press briefings and read it between the lines of suddenly urgent diplomatic cables. The pivotal moment came when Industry Minister Mélanie Joly stepped to a microphone and delivered a single, devastating line that sent a palpable chill through the entire U.S. defense industry establishment. She didn't talk about the jet's vaunted stealth capabilities. She didn't praise the long-standing military alliance. She looked directly into the cameras and said with stunning, brutal clarity, "We believe we didn't get enough from the F-35 program." The silence that followed was deafening. Let that profound statement sink in for a moment. The message to Washington was crystal clear and unmistakable. Canada is finished with pretend partnerships that benefit one side disproportionately. They want tangible industrial benefits, real technological sharing, concrete jobs for their people, and actual strategic clout. And they sent a clear warning. If the United States cannot or will not provide that, they will unhesitatingly find a nation that will.
That single sharp statement triggered immediate political and economic tremors from the State Department to the Pentagon. Why did it have such a powerful effect? Because Canada isn't just another foreign buyer in a long line of international customers. Canadian aerospace firms are deeply embedded in the F-35's very global supply chain, manufacturing critical and proprietary components. Their continued participation lends the entire trillion-dollar program a crucial layer of international credibility and political legitimacy that Washington desperately needs. And the response from America's top defense contractor, Lockheed Martin, was not a quietly circulated internal memo. It was a blunt, public, corporate-level threat issued for maximum intimidation. They stated plainly and without nuance that if Canada walks back its commitments, then promised industrial benefits will be cut, existing jobs will be lost, and hard-won supply chain access will be permanently terminated. Notice the language, not might, but will. This was the old, familiar playbook of superpower pressure, laid completely bare for all to see. But there's one critical, fundamental thing that Washington and its powerful contractors catastrophically misjudged in their calculations. You can only effectively make threats when the other side genuinely has no other viable options. And for the first time in living memory, Canada has a very real, very attractive, and strategically sound alternative option waiting in the wings. While American officials and corporate executives were still reeling from Ottawa's defiance, Sweden didn't just send mid-level diplomats to make vague promises. They brought their royal family and the top executives from Saab, the makers of the advanced Gripen fighter. Their proposal was nothing less than a direct and deliberate assault on American aerospace dominance. Let's be clear about what was offered. This wasn't just an aircraft purchase. It was a comprehensive offer of national sovereignty. The deal was this: build the jets directly in Canada, create those 10,000 promised jobs in a new sovereign aerospace facility, involve Bombardier heavily as a primary industrial partner, and, most critically, grant Canada full sovereign control over its entire military fleet. No restrictive U.S. software locks, no need for Washington's permission to deploy, maintain, or upgrade the aircraft, no American oversight over independent Canadian military decisions. Ottawa's official, deliberately understated response? They called the sweeping offer very interesting. For the United States, those two carefully chosen words landed with the force of a geopolitical declaration of independence. So when Ambassador Pete Hoekstra finally stepped forward to publicly address the escalating situation, his body language and demeanor said everything before he even uttered a word. He wasn't the calm, confident superpower envoy the world is used to seeing. He was visibly rattled, his composure frayed. He repeatedly used overly soothing, almost placating words like partnership and shared future and mutual benefit. Then came the specific moment that revealed the true depth of American strategic fear. It's not an American plane, Hoekstra insisted defensively to the press corps. It's an international plane. He felt the need to downplay his own country's flagship program. Just stop and think about the profound meaning behind that desperate correction. The official U.S. ambassador felt compelled to publicly downplay ownership and control of America's most advanced, most expensive fighter jet ever built. That isn't the language of confidence. That is the language of pure strategic desperation, an attempt to distance Washington from a potential liability. But the most psychologically telling part of his entire appearance was a clumsy, awkward attempt at a joke. "I hope you guys like us more than China," he said with a strained, nervous laugh that echoed through the silent room. That wasn't a genuine joke. It wasn't a moment of light-hearted humor. It was a deep-seated, fundamental fear, spoken aloud accidentally. It was terror disguised as diplomatic charm.
And then, as if realizing he had shown too much of his hand, the friendly diplomatic mask slipped completely. The underlying pressure returned in a rush. "There will be a tariff," he declared flatly, his tone hardening. He bluntly urged Canada to get into the lowest tariff bucket, framing it not as a good-faith negotiation between respected equals, but as a direct order to a subordinate. He even specifically blamed a provincial political advertisement in Ontario for provoking an American trade freeze, a clear signal that Canada's mere act of public dissent had crossed a red line in Washington's view of the relationship. This is the raw, unvarnished language of a superpower watching its assumed, unspoken authority begin to evaporate in real time. It's the sound of a paradigm shifting. But history shows that external pressure is only effective when you hold all the cards. And Canada, to Washington's utter astonishment, just revealed a powerful hand that the Americans never knew existed. The truth is, the real fight, the billion-dollar battle, isn't really about fighter jets at all. The F-35 is the public drama, the flashy headline that captures the media's attention. But the conflict that truly has Pentagon planners and White House strategists losing sleep at night involves something far more crucial to the future: the global control of critical minerals. Ambassador Hoekstra involuntarily betrayed this core fear when he abruptly, awkwardly pivoted in his speech to talk exclusively about rare earth elements and critical minerals, labeling them outright as essential for American national security. He was dangerously understating the case. These minerals are the absolute lifeblood of all modern defense and technology. Advanced sensors, precision guidance systems, military satellites, communications networks, electric vehicles, battery storage, every single future industry and next-generation weapon system depends entirely on them. And here is the ultimate source of Canadian leverage. Canada sits on some of the planet's largest, most stable, most politically secure, and environmentally cleanest reserves of these very resources. For generations, America operated on the comfortable, unchallenged assumption that these Canadian resources would always, inevitably, flow south, on our terms, into our factories and our weapons. That comfortable era is now definitively over. Meanwhile, China has spent the last 2 decades systematically securing and dominating global mineral supply chains, and their strategists see Canada's vast, untapped reserves as the ultimate geopolitical prize. If Canadian minerals start flowing east to other global partners instead of south, the impact on American manufacturing capabilities and national defense readiness would be immediate, severe, and potentially catastrophic for entire sectors of the U.S. economy. That's why Hoekstra's nervous joke about China was so revealing. It was raw strategic terror, thinly disguised as charming banter. The United States is now openly confronting the very real possibility of losing its guaranteed, privileged access to the fundamental resources that will power the entire 21st century economy and its defense infrastructure. What happened this past week was not a minor diplomatic spat or a temporary trade disagreement. It was a fundamental, structural recalibration of power and influence across North America. The continental plates of strategy are moving. By forcefully questioning the F-35, Canada directly challenged the core of the American military-industrial complex. By seriously entertaining the Gripen, Ottawa demonstrated to the world that it is a sovereign nation with legitimate competitive choices. By openly exploring new global partnerships, Canada signaled to every capital on Earth that it now fully understands its own intrinsic economic and strategic value, and it is finally ready to act accordingly. A nation's independence, once truly tasted, is not easily forgotten or willingly surrendered. It becomes a permanent part of the national character. Ambassador Hoekstra's entire performance, a shaky, inconsistent blend of flattery, fear, and blunt threats, shows us exactly who is truly nervous in this new, emerging relationship. America is no longer calmly setting the continental agenda from a position of unassailable strength. America is now reacting, often clumsily, to Canada's confident moves. We are playing defense, while they are playing a sophisticated, long game. The old map of North American power, drawn in Washington and followed by everyone else, is being erased right before our eyes. And for the first time in generations, Canada is not just a feature on that map, it is decisively holding the pen, and it is beginning to draw the borders of its own future. If you are starting to see this bigger transformative picture here, if you understand the profound implications of this geopolitical shift, then make sure to like this video and follow the channel Winds of Thought for more essential analysis that connects the dots of our changing world.